Welcome back to another edition of Zero Block 30. Today we have 5 rounds in the magazine. Round number 1. Oftentimes military stories can end up like a dick measuring contest. If that happened, our friends in Canada would beat the absolute pants off the United States.
Wow.
Round number 2. Our friend PFT Commenter is the ghost of Barstool Headquarters 3, and we're going to have him on the show to get some real life advice from a Top Gun who's taken the skies by storm. He looks the part, honestly.
He does, through and through. He really does.
Mm-hmm. He's got
but I think our pilots are usually taller, right?
No,
Oh.
because they need to
Just
be
a
able to fit
question.
comfortably in the cockpit.
Yeah, you got to
Ugly.
get in the cockpit. Yeah, too tall.
Right.
Isn't that
Yeah.
who's too tall? There's
That was
somebody
from
named-
We Were Soldiers. It was
That's
the
right.
helicopter pilot who was outside the regs, but they still wanted to be in that one unit because Snake Shit was a great leader.
Yeah, wow, potty mouth on cons to start the show. Unbelievable.
Hey,
Yikes.
listen,
Kick
that's not
rocks,
potty
pal.
mouth when I'm just reading off that their call
It's true.
sign.
A quote doesn't count. That's exactly right, Cons. Well done.
Thank
Round
you.
number 3, the Golden Knights had a little accident that triggered the Capitol Police locking down the entire Capitol building. Nancy and the whole squad up there wasn't happy. I mean,
Oh, Pelosi.
I want to know. I wish we had recordings. There's certain things that I wish that we had recordings of. One of the things I was actually telling McCartney about the other day, I was talking about how Lyndon Johnson, whenever he was in office, it was Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon was president, and Joe Biden had just become senator, which shows you how long Joe Biden's been in fucking government, which is entirely
ridiculous.
too long. When Richard Nixon was the president, and after Biden's wife had died tragically in that car wreck, the first phone call that President Biden had ever gotten from a president was President Nixon calling to apologize and give his condolences about Joe Biden's wife. I had no idea. And they released like a tape about it where he's talking. And Richard Nixon, not exactly the most empathetic fellow in the world.
No.
Like he's like, hey, I
No.
heard about your wife. That fucking stinks. Like that's basically the tone of what he said. You got to give him more than that, right? I mean, Richard Nixon got to give him more.
Genuine question. What did that have to do with the Golden Knights? How did we get here?
Oh, a recording of if Nancy Pelosi was talking to somebody from like 82nd Airborne. Because isn't that where Golden Knights are from? 82nd? Aren't they part of that unit?
Yes, they are. They're out of Fort Bragg. Yes.
So like having them talk and be like, well, we forgot. Like, whose responsibility would that be? That'd be the S6, right? For training and logistics. When they have to talk to the Capitol Police about clearance?
I would think it would be the XO of the Golden Knights
I think
and
the
or the
military is
S3.
we'll get into it in that round, but I think the military is getting thrown under the bus when it's the FAA that's stinking it up.
Well, you already know I hate the TSA. I have no problem going after that.
I bet they're guilty for whatever happened too. All I know is that last night I was scrolling Twitter and I see this tweet that's like, there's parachutes dropping down on the Capitol building from somebody who was at a weird angle in the city. And it looked like parachutes were dropping down on the, and so
but they're doing it with huge eagles on the parachutes. Like if you're a foreign military, I don't think you're going to be doing it with like a "Don't tread on me" flag.
I don't
Right.
know.
This isn't Red Dawn where, the Russians are dropping in. I would like to correct myself because I wasn't positive, but I knew they were at Fort Bragg. So I mistakenly assumed. And what happens when we assume? We make an ass out of you and me.
Well, two
They're
squares
actually
from
part-
cons.
Yes. They're actually part of the United States Army Marketing and Engagement Brigade, which is headquartered at Fort Knox, but they're garrisoned in Bragg, which is why I mistakenly thought they were part of the 82nd. But carry on.
It's a long way to say I was wrong. Round number 4, a story that might be the most PFC story of all time. An Army PFC decides to go to basic training bases after he's already in MOS school, but he's not going back just to reminisce. He's going back to sell those fucking dirty old basic training privates vape cartridges.
This is delightful. This is like a military version of that Drew Barrymore movie, Never Been Kissed, where she's a journalist who goes back to high school to try and.
But it'd be going back when you're like 19. Not going
Can
back
we
when you're
talk
like
about
30.
that for a second? The premise of that movie, underlying that whole movie, is the idea that a teacher is trying to have a relationship with what he thinks is a high school student.
Yeah, it was a different
It's a very rapey vibe. Yeah, that doesn't get made today.
It's not great.
No, very
Not great.
problematic.
Shout to the
Problematic
90s. Indeed.
Yeah.
What's not problematic is our good friends at Whistle Pig. They want us to tell you about their delicious Whistle Pig whiskey.
Sorry.
What
About round number 5?
Oh yeah.
Round number 5. Kate did an interview. Tell us what it's about, Kate.
Yeah, so it's a Fellow named Joel, who replied to the Ghost of Manhattan PFT commenter's tweet about fly in the skies. And this guy, I'm not saying PFT is not an actual expert in simulator gaming, but this guy definitely is an expert in this stuff. And so I just asked him, I wanted to know. And turns out he said a lot of these guys playing these military simulator games that are very realistic are actual military people. So there's a lot of, he said it's a really cool community. And I just felt it would be good to share for people who got out, who are looking for a hobby or something. Seems like a really chill, friendly, like tight knit, cool group.
It really does. I was jealous as soon as I saw PFT's tweets and Instagram about it. I was jealous that he has that going on in his house right now.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever play any type of fighter pilot games growing up, like on Nintendo or Sega or anything like that?
It was like maybe 7th grade. I had Top Gun on my computer. It was a full-blown Top Gun simulator game, and I actually
trying to land. It's
the
hard.
real deal joy. Yes, on the aircraft carrier, it was very difficult. Yeah, I had the real deal joystick.
And anytime you could get upside down, I could never tell if I was going up or down if you can't see the ground. So I would get very lost, or I would have no spatial awareness. If I was a fighter pilot, I would crash into the ocean 1,000%. Like there's no shot I make it out of the ocean.
No, because I think, and we're still waiting on our ride in a jet to confirm this, and it's kind of being worked on, but maybe not really. So if you're a fighter jet squadron, please reach out to us. I think gravity takes over, and you can determine which way is up and which way is down just based on gravity.
Dude, you know
I don't know.
I don't want to like one up you guys, but I believe I played the first ever combat simulator game all the way back in. We got this hand-me-down massive beast of a computer in like 1994, 95, like way long ago. And there was a game on it called Striker, where you were a helicopter pilot who was dropping bombs on, but the helicopter was just a rectangle that dropped tinier rectangles on other rectangles. And it was just black and white.
Fuck those rectangles up.
But back then there was nothing else to compare it to. So I would sit there dropping rectangles for hours. So into it.
Nobody drops rectangles like Kate.
I
love those types of games. Like even the Call of Duties where you can jump out of the plane and like try to attack somebody like whenever you go into the little area that they go into. Well, there's another game called Just Cause. And have you guys seen those squirrel suits, like the flying squirrel suits that they have?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where you can do a cliff jump and then you put your wings out and you coast all through. And some of these folks that do it, they'll go straight right over the treetops, and it's phenomenal to watch them do it. Well, Just Cause has that in their game where you can have a parachute, you can switch to the squirrel suit. I like to jump from the helicopters whenever they drop me off, put on the squirrel suit, and look for somebody that's like an enemy to take them out just with the headbutt from the helicopter, like as fast as I can.
Awesome.
Like kamikaze style mission. It's you die instantly, have to start over again, but you start over again in the helicopter and get the opportunity to spear another person.
For our friends listening who aren't in the military, that is what our combat and training is actually like. We just do that. We all can do that.
Yeah, that's the reason why they call the Golden Knights the Goldbergs of the U.S. military. That was a reference for our guy, Nick, who is behind the black screen of darkness and also experiencing intense bout of COVID. I would like to have a poll. Who do we think had worse diarrhea during COVID, Kate or Nick? See which one
I'm saying be me.
It had to be Kate because she couldn't even control it.
And because my
Kate
diet
was cleaning up
just,
poop with her socks. So
just horrendous. Yes, you're right. That is correct. Right down the back of my PJ pants.
I haven't had diarrhea. It's just been straight solid.
Wow.
So we're good.
Whoa, sick flex. Whoa. My socks were like a BFA on the end of my rifle, you know? They were like keeping.
Nope, all solid over here.
Okay,
good.
Okay.
That's good.
And all that is brought to you by our good friends at Whistle Pig Whiskey. We think that they are doing the best of any Whistle Pig or any whiskey brand in the United States. And I stand by that 100%. It's delicious. It's made with 100% rye whiskey for a bold, full, spicy flavor. It's a bartender's dream. It's perfect for mixing up cocktails. It's aged 6 years, has a high of 96.56 proof. Buddy, sign me up for that. Honest to God, once they announced that Whistle Pig was going to be our sponsor, I was so happy. They sent like this case of different types of whiskey. at Christmas time, I felt like the belle of the ball, like having that when a buddy would come over, like, oh, you want a bottle of whiskey? They're like, dude, this is nice whiskey. Like, you're goddamn right it is. So with Father's Day and Mother's Day coming out, everybody's buying flowers. They're buying necklaces. Give your mom a big old bottle of whiskey. She deserves
That's a great
it after
idea.
dealing
Do
with
you
your
know
ass.
what on a Friday night, I either do the rice smashes or I do just some whistle pig with a couple ice cubes in it. And it's just.
Oh, wait. We got to get you the sphere for the ice cubes. The actual big ice cubes.
Yeah, I need
I'll send
that.
you Kate, I'll send you a link. There's a few links. Don't worry. They're not expensive either. So I'll send
Cons, you're more of a fancy gift giver, I think, than us. What do you think about, let's say, doing like a farm stock bottle or even the Whistle Pig piggyback? Because it's fucking delicious. Doing a little glass engraving on it. Happy Mother's Day 2022 to mom. I think they would like that.
I think that's a fantastic, thoughtful gift.
You could say from your little piglet, Cons.
Right. And I'll tell you,
here's a little brown water, mama.
Here for dealing with me all those years.
Yeah, you might need to buy her a case, honestly.
Yeah, probably.
My mom too.
My mother.
My mom definitely
as well
deserves a case. Yeah, your mom does. I feel like your dad too, over some of the stories that you've told the past couple of weeks, like trying to shame him for taking your brothers out and playing catch. I think
that's true. You know what brings me great comfort? Because I'm like, oh my God, the baby's growing up so fast that I'm in my 30s and I am still such a huge pain in the ass to my parents. Like they still have to help me and deal with me all the time. And it's like, oh, good. I'll have him for a long time. I'll be hanging out.
It is funny because eventually that's going to shift for you and I feel like that's the point where you have to be the grown-up kid. It's like whenever you start helping your parents with little tasks that normally you had to, it's like, no, like my mom, I love her to death, but I got every couple of weeks, I got to be like, Mom, stop commenting on all these damn local news plus and all these different meme accounts on Facebook. They're just trying to steal your information. You don't really need to know your Easter bunny name, Mom. Like you don't need to know it.
You got to start looking out for them.
The old versus the internet. It's quite a battle.
All right, let's hop into the actual subjects of the day. We're going to start in round number 1. And this came from a scientific journal where they actually went through and were trying to gauge the cock sizes of people around the globe. So let's figure that out.
Dropping hard cocks right in the beginning of the show. Happy Friday to everyone listening. All right. Online pharmacy from Mars used Google data from 86 countries to conduct a study on penis size around the planet. And you will find some hard truths in the data. Whether people are concerned about the size or the shape or any other aspect for that matter, most of us had wondered at some point or another, is ours big enough? Yeah, this is maybe too personal. But do you guys I would assume it starts in like locker room or whatever. Do you start to get nervous? Like, what's everybody else working with? Like, did you not care?
Initial concern probably shows up around 5th or 6th grade.
Yeah.
I feel like middle school, whenever you're there, because once you start getting no apparent reason boners, when you start getting, when those start showing up, you're like, well, I know I'm probably going to have some boners because I've read about that, but I hope it's big enough where I'm not embarrassed by it.
Yeah, I would imagine it's a whole thing that I've never had to deal with.
But ladies have to deal with that too, with titties, right?
I feel like not so much because, like, sure, whatever. People might want to grab them and toss them around a little bit, but it doesn't directly impact, I feel like, the actual act of pound.
Yeah, but more. Like, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. I got roasted. Huh? In middle school, I told you the April Fool's joke. I probably brought it up in this show 50 times now. Hey, everybody, Kate has boobs. April Fool's. Brian S.
I don't know if you have told that
language. It was language arts class. And so then I started, I was in 6th grade. I still only had a training bra. So I started putting socks in my bra, but I didn't want it to be too obvious. So I put them long ways. So my tits were shaped like a wacky L.
Shout out our long boobs.
Yes, our long boobs. So then it was very clear that I had a sock in my shirt. And so then kids picked up on that and I got fucking roasted for it.
Is that before or after the mullet?
That was sort of during. And I
was it during?
I had cut my own bangs and I had a retainer in and I was so
My guess is also Kate had some wacky explanation for why she had a sock in her bra. Did you or did you not?
Sweaty.
Yeah.
Just for sweat in gym
Got
class.
some
I left it in
sweaty
there.
tits.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I put socks in my bra for sure. Yeah. Anyway, so yes, you're right. It is difficult for all of us. We're all going through the ringer. I would imagine at boot camp too, because they would line us up in just our tighty whities, no top, no nothing to do. They would check us for cellulitis and all sorts of stuff. You would have to get in a line and one by one in front of your drill instructors, do this little circle dance to be and like kicking up your legs and be like, ma'am, everything's good with my body. I'm fine. And they would like literally check your whole body out to make sure you didn't have anything weird going on. That was like almost every night.
Yeah, that reminds, I mean, boot camp is easily one of those spots where you're meat gazing just to see what everybody else is working with. That's why it's so gutting that my favorite story is when the drill instructors were, the first sergeant and the company commander were looking to the left or the right, and they told the one kid to pull his pubes back, and they said, recruit, where the fuck is your penis? And he pulled it back. And then that kid's known as the little dick guy for the rest of his 4 years that he's in the Marine Corps.
Which is like, jokes aside, that's fucking horrible, dude. Like, that's so damaging. That's like,
they asked him, Kate, at the time, they asked him if he needed to go down to 4th Battalion.
Oh,
that's inappropriate,
because that's where the women were. Like, he would, they were like, do you need to go down? Are you in the wrong spot? And he's like, no, sir, this recruit's in the right spot.
Meanwhile, my flaps were so big, they sent me over to 3rd.
Jesus Christ, the flaps on this recruit.
You can fly on over there yourself.
I didn't realize they made you all do that at boot camp, because I certainly did not have that experience.
It was the most absurd. It was like a bunch of wacky Walter Whites in these enormous tighty whities, and you're literally marching around.
Oh, we weren't in tighty whities. We were butt ass naked.
But what's the point? Don't they already check for all that stuff before you even get to that point?
You can develop it. We had
eyes on to make sure that no injuries have taken place, that you don't have any bruises or broken bones or anything like that, because you go basically from a little hotel that you stay in after MEPS, that then they pick you up and take you to boot camp the next day. So they have to do an eyes on inspection to make sure that you don't have anything going on with you before you actually start real training. But then you do it multiple times throughout training too, like hygiene inspection.
We did it all the time. That's how they found we would get bug bites all over us, because I was there in spring and they had the same place. And then the women would scratch and then they would get cellulitis on their bodies. And that's how they would catch it. One girl
I never heard that phrase until boot camp.
Me neither, but she had to have a huge chunk of her butt cheek removed because she got it so bad.
Did you ever get it? Man.
No.
I got cellulitis. I got cellulitis at MOS school after doing a run where there was like Car Wash Hill in Fort Leonard Wood.
Yep.
And I got a huge blister. Like my entire heel was covered in one big blister. And I went to medical to get it checked out because it was just so fucking big. And they're like, well, we got to pop it to release some of the toxins that are in it. They did it. They sliced it along the side and like squeezed it out, Dr. Pimple Popper. And it legitimately looked like yellow mustard, like coming out. It was like
I would have loved to have watched that.
You would have crushed on TikTok. It's a shame.
All that stuff,
absolutely.
Dude. Like, honestly, if we did a lot of the stuff that when we were in, though, you didn't have court-martialed on TikTok.
That's true, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Thank God
I'd
that
like
we didn't have
to
it back then.
admit something. I'm admitting a mistake for the second time in the same show. You guys are talking about cellulitis, and in my head, I'm thinking, well, what does it matter if they got those little like parts of their body that have a little extra fat?
Oh,
thinking
cellulitis.
Cellulite, not cellulitis. Two different things.
They were making sure we're all super hot bodies is what they were doing.
So I was like, why?
I do think that they would frown on cellulite too, though.
Like, probably.
But back to the cocks. Back to the cocks. So the news that came out of this study is that members from the Great White North should be standing erect and prideful. The average size of a Canadian penis came in 12th in the world, whereas Yankee Doodle dinglings came in at 59th place. Men in Ecuador are the planet's most well-endowed, with an average size of 6.93 inches when erect. And I said this on the rundown the other day. My theory: Ecuador, equator, they're on the belt of the world. The world's spinning around. The part then that's spinning the most is the widest part, which is the equator. And that's gravity. That's pulling. You're getting gravity pulling on your cock all day
Stretch
long.
Armstrong dick.
Stretch
basically.
Armstrong penises is what that is.
That checks out.
Coming in second is Cameroon with an average size of 6.56, followed by Bolivia, 6.5, and then Sudan and Haiti. Again, a lot of these right along the equator. I'm just saying. Cambodia pulls up the rear, but doesn't really get in there at 3.95 inches, with Taiwan and the Philippines rounding out the bottom three. Again,
3.9 inches, I believe, is pinky size. Like that's around pinky.
Wow. Well, she's got her tape measure out, folks.
That's enough.
Yeah, that's not bad. I feel like that. Like people like want these huge cocks. I don't think people want huge cocks anymore. I think huge cocks are a thing of the past. Cocks are basically like SUVs. In the late 90s, early 2000s, the bigger the better. You wanted a Ford Excursion. You wanted a Cadillac Escalade. Now, give me a nice little Tesla cock that's electric. You can plug it in. It's reliable.
Because I think that's when porn first started really becoming accessible to everyone. And everybody was like, oh my God, the hammer's on these guys. And now it's like, oh, right.
Oh, well, she's stuck in the dryer. Got to give it to her now.
Yeah. 2016. A study was done that showed women prefer a slightly larger penis for just one night stands. But for a long-term partner, they're cool with average. They're totally cool with that. Researchers provided women with 33 different sized 3D penis models. So you walk into this room, you got 33 all lined up by size, 33 dongs to choose from. And you pick which one you want. In total, 75 women took part in the study. When asked to select the mold, which represented their preferred size, the average response was 6.3 inches and 4.8 inches around. And I took out my measuring tape. I said, okay, how big is that? Fellas, I wish I could really show
turn off your
background.
We got to see it. Yeah.
Okay. Virtual background. None.
There we go. That's a massive penis. I mean, just nice veins. That obviously Kate was in the Marine Corps with those veins, but that's a big penis.
Now I added I pretend the balls aren't there, but that's still quite a sizable. And so I did a little math because I was like, oh wow, 5-something inches around, like width-wise, that's huge. But when you circle it up, I circled the tape measure, and then I cut the circumference to get what the actual width would be. But that's still, that's a pretty
girthy, meaty penis.
Look at this thing.
It
kind of looks like me.
Never mind. I was going to say something wildly inappropriate and pulled back the old reins.
Okay. Sure.
I'm uncomfortable.
Anyways, I think I speak for all of us. And then when it came, this is the one night stand penis I'm showing you. The other one was a little bit smaller. I think I'd speak for most women or whoever when I say that as long as a guy can find the old clitoroon doggy and put the toilet seat down and split chores with us 50-50, buddy, I don't care if you've got a button. I don't care if you got to part your pubes to find that thing.
I feel like that's taking it too far. Classic Kate trying to be accommodating. No one wants a button. They just don't want a button. They don't.
But if you have one and you can really go to town with the old tongue.
Sure, but I would like to have a get together, and I don't mind lemonade. But whenever I'm having a get together with my buddies, I'd rather have a whistle pig than some lemonade.
All right, I'm just saying, if he makes the meat,
we all have our preferences.
Okay,
but
not shaming.
All right, let's move on to round number 2, and that's going to be with our good friend PFT. Here he is. All right, so we have PFT commenter joining us here on 0 Block 30. He's flexing on those hosts. We're going to send him over to Ukraine after we're done with this interview to absolutely give him the what for over there. But PFT, you've been known as a football guy for a long time. We log in Twitter and Instagram. We see you strolling in on our area.
Airspace. He's up in our airspace.
I was going to say turf, but it's not turf because you're in the friendly skies or the not so friendly skies as a fighter pilot. How did you get so passionate about protecting these skies?
Yeah, I'm flying some sorties. I'm taking care of business. I'm establishing a no-fly zone currently in the nation of Georgia, protecting Azerbaijan, just keeping an eye on the Balkans in general. I've got I've got a significant amount of experience in a cockpit, dating back to my days playing U.S. Navy Fighters Gold when I was approximately 10, 11, and 12 years old. It was a favorite game of mine. And then I kind of forgot about flight simulators for a while, and on a whim downloaded one about a month ago. And now, like, it's the online equivalent of I'm switching my focus from football to being in the military, just in my make-believe world. I'm doing a virtual Pat Tillman. I'm giving up everything that I loved talking about football on the internet to now talk about being a fighter pilot on the internet.
And that's incredibly, incredibly brave of you. And what has been some of the feedback that you've received for this? I mean, just unbelievably unselfish move.
The unselfish act. Well, I did win a Medal of Honor on one of my campaigns yesterday, and I shared the screen grab of that. I think I shot down like 4 helicopters and 3 MiGs in one mission. And
I think you'd be the first person since Vietnam, first pilot since Vietnam to receive the Medal of Honor as well.
Wow, what an honor.
Nobody in the Global War on Terror did enough to get it.
When it showed me that I won the Medal of Honor, the dialogue box that popped up was, congratulations, you have won the Medal of Honor. And then you got to click OK.
Yeah, but that's a credit to you, PFT. It's because they know that you're going to be so humble. It's not like you're going to go on some confetti, like whenever you text somebody congrats now and the confetti drops, you're not going to do that. You're out there just to do the mission that you were assigned and don't need any medal as recognition in the game. Recognize that.
No, I plan on going on like all the major news channels. Like you're going to see me on Newsmax, CNN Plus. I'm going to be talking about how like the next generation of fighter pilots just they couldn't pass. They could not pass our fitness test that we used to do back in the day. But no, I mean, it's fun. I really enjoy doing the simulator thing, even though it is like maybe the nerdiest thing that I am incredibly passionate about or obsessed about. And I'm still not any good at it. I don't know what I'm doing yet. The simulators that they have nowadays, it's insane how much time you would have to put into mastering them to be able to be any good at them. Like I was looking through the startup procedure. I'm flying an F-15 now, but that's only because I bought a package with an F-16. And the systems were so complicated. There were like 20 things I had to do to start my plane up. I had to like check my hydraulic pressure. Like who wants to play a video game where you're like, you have to do routine maintenance on your own plane before you can get up in the sky.
That's why I quit Farm Simulator. I don't actually want to go out there and change the oil in my tractor.
Yeah. It's funny. The simulator lifestyle it's basically people that want to spend their time and their like free moments at home doing somebody else's job. And there's like the farming simulator. I know Zod gets really to the train simulator. And
18-wheeler. Ice Road Truckers has one.
Yeah, I know Zod and Spider do Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is it's similar to what I'm doing, but they don't have any guns and cool missiles.
And that's for basic bitches, right?
Yeah. PFT.
I turn and burn, baby. That's what I do.
Yeah. I don't want you to sound like a noob in your new pilot community. Just so you know, all those checks that you do before you can get up in the air, we call those PCCs and PCIs.
Okay, PCC. So what I did was I actually chose a different model of plane, the F-15. But
now you know what the acronym is, so you can go to the F-16 or F-18 rather.
Get my PCIs in check. Yeah. I'm more of an air-to-air guy. The F-18 is a hell of a plane. Listen, it's done some heavy lifting over the last.
It's a nice bird for sure.
It is a speedy bird. It'll get on your 6 and won't leave. The danger is that you overshoot sometimes in the F-18, but that's more. They use that a lot in this game for air to ground combat. So far, I'm so bad at trying to bomb anything or shoot rockets or shoot my cannon at anything that's on the ground. I think I just crash direct. I have a higher kill percentage when I crash my plane into a tank than I do actually trying to shoot any weapons at it. So I'm more of an air-to-air guy.
How do you feel like you would deal with being at SEER training?
Pretty good. I think that's when you survive, you evade, you elude, and then you recover. Is that what SEER is?
Yeah, you can recover or you can resist. Either one.
Yeah, either one's fine.
And you can escape, and you can escape too while you're at it. But you basically got it.
I'm a big resist guy. Yeah, what I would do is I would pin a paper clip to my lapel, and I'd be like, "Sir, I'm resisting, sir." And then that's
you strike me as the type of guy who would resist before he would escape. He's like, "Nah, escaping's the easy way out. I'm just gonna stay here and resist and out mind game you."
Yes and no. I mean, I am a coward, so the thought of escape kind of does appeal to me, but there's also something cool about like standing up and standing your ground and saying, "No, I'm resisting you," and then going out as a warrior that way. But I don't have the mental fortitude. I don't think I have the guts to really be an effective resistor.
But do you really feel like you've learned something about planes by playing this game?
Oh,
like 100%. If you let's say gun to your head, you have that one dude in Detroit that knows all the special defense moves, and he's out there, he's got a gun to your head, and there's absolutely no way. We put you in an F-15. Do you feel like you could get off the ground?
No, No, I could not get off the ground because
I can
of
understand.
all the.
Oh yeah, because
PCCs.
you skipped all the PCCs and PCIs, so you have no
Yeah.
idea.
See, I think you could get off the ground. I don't think you could land.
Here's my startup procedure. I hit right shift home, and that starts the engines. I have to close the cockpit canopy. I turn on my electric systems inside the plane. I wait for the engines to get like hot, and then after the engine start procedure shuts off, then I turn the throttle on. I'm actually probably like 33% in terms of getting off the ground, like taxiing on the runway. I've flipped like 9 planes. I'm like,
That's better than the Taliban was at the helicopters that we left in
True.
Kabul.
You're doing better than them.
and it's like Harrison Ford, his landing percentage. That's like my taxiing percentage, where I'm just like constantly flipping the plane before I take off. But once I get in the, here's what I think I could do. I think I could get in the air, and I think I could navigate to a waypoint. I just recently learned how to use a navigation system, both INS and ILS. And I think I could navigate to certain waypoints, like probably not the correct altitude, but I think I could get the bearing down. I know what my heading markers are. I'm familiar with the heads up display. I can find my way to certain navigational waypoints. When it comes to landing, I'm still working on that. Maybe on an airstrip I could land, but probably not. My most successful landing so far was I came in like way too fast. I landed. I somehow managed to get the wheels on the ground. The whole glide slope thing of keeping your nose up while keeping like the back end of your plane down, that's still foreign to me. It's very hard for me to do. But I did it one time. I landed like halfway down the airstrip, and then I was still going like 200 miles an hour, which is way over speed. And I just drove directly off the end of the airstrip, and I was driving in between.
You're power
trees.
sliding like you're skateboarding.
Yeah, I was dodging trees because I was so far off the airstrip. And finally, after, I don't know, like a mile of just going through this grassy field, I come to a complete stop, and I'm like, okay, I survived. And then a minute later, my wingman comes in right behind me. He is also, because he's such a loyal wingman, he landed at the exact same spot on the runway that I did. And he drove all the way off the runway to make sure I was okay and parked next to me.
See,
I like
PFT,
that.
you've already got the military lifestyle down. Picture you just told that story, but you're sitting in a bar with a beer. So there I was going 200 miles halfway down the runway,
Mhm.
dodging trees, blah, blah, blah. That's it.
And
Now,
it happens. That A-10 pilot, the woman A-10 pilot, that all the landing gear wasn't working, and she had to land the A-10 on its belly, like on the actual runway.
Oh shit.
Now,
No, I don't know if I could pull that one off.
And
With
she
the-
only got, I believe it was a Distinguished Flying Cross. You got the Medal of Honor.
you got the Medal of Honor. So yeah, I'm predicting the future. PFT has a very big following. I know a bunch of military people follow you. In my dream world, some fighter pilot sees this and is like, reaches out and is like, do you want to come up and be in the second bubble? Would you?
No,
No,
absolutely not.
really?
No,
Would
no,
not
no,
do
no,
it?
no. I'm terrified of heights. Absolutely terrified.
That's
I
all
feel
I'm
like that's
saying
not
whenever you want
heights,
to be a
though.
pilot.
And don't get me wrong. Yes, you're very high in the air, but I feel like it's a different feeling when you're strapped into a plane versus standing on the edge of a building.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like it would be terrifying if you were scared of heights.
I can fly in an airplane, like a normal airplane, but
Mhm.
But
I
you're
don't
not
know.
looking.
I think what would mess me up would be like the cockpit, the glass top, the canopy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
going
that would-
inverted.
Yeah, going inverted, I would freak out. Even just flying and being able to look up at the sky, I think that would kind of trip me out a little bit, because that's what kind of sets me off a little bit, is when I'm out in the open.
And
it's
that would make
kinda
you
like-
super hot too. Like think about just driving with your with the sunroof open. That makes you hot. If you got a complete glass top all over the place and you're in the sky,
toasty in there.
you're gonna be burning. I think you could land though, because we did a story. I'm not sure if it was on this show or if it was on the Chaps and Kate show, but there was a guy that worked as like a luggage person, and he put luggage underneath the plane whenever they were going places. And he got into the cockpit of like a 737 and took off outside of Seattle and
Yep.
flew around for like 2.5, 3 hours. Air
Saw some
traffic
baby
controllers.
whales.
They walked him through how to land the plane, and he did it safely. Nothing happened.
So chaps, I think not to
Oh wait, maybe he died.
say that you're wrong,
No, he
but
crashed.
he crashed his plane
Yeah,
into
chaps,
an
that's
island
not-
in the middle of the Puget Sound.
Yeah, right.
But to
Jesus.
your point, he was able
Small
to
detail.
execute, like he was doing barrel rolls and shit in
Yes.
this big commuter airplane. I think he
Yes.
did like an entire loop-de-loop. I think he did like like an inverted S turn. And he came up like 40 feet from the ground. And then they said, okay, we're going to talk you through how to land. And he goes, no, I didn't really plan on landing this thing. He just ended up crashing it. But I think that I'm so delusional that I think that if I'm on a plane and the pilots are both incapacitated, maybe
they're ready to step up.
Bad meal. The flight attendants get on the intercom and they're like, does anybody on this plane know how to fly? I think
you're going to Mark Wahlberg the shit out of that.
You have to try.
After that first wave of silence, when nobody is like, yes, I'm a military pilot and I've got 20 years of experience in the Navy. After that first wave of silence, when nobody volunteers, I think I do one of these and I like slowly raise my hand and I'm like, I've got 1,200 simulator hours and an F6
and a Medal of Honor.
I'm going to tell you something right now, PFT. I would take that over somebody who has no experience.
Oh yeah.
You have at least something.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
We got better chances with you than with maybe me. I did play a lot of Top Gun growing up, so maybe I'm not a good example. But somebody who has zero
controller, not a joystick, right?
No, I did that with the joystick.
Oh well, then
did you have the throttle?
The same.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got the joystick and the throttle set up. I think I at least know like the basics of flight. The 4 forces are lift, thrust, drag, and then there's another one. But I know 3 out of the 4. That's 75%. That's pretty good.
No, that's great. Yeah, I think that's phenomenal.
Well, I love it. I would like to see more. And do you plan on, final question for me, do you plan on like upping your game? Because later in the show, we interview a guy who has thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Are you upping your game? Are you buying more stuff? Are you getting deeper in this?
I mean, right now, yes, I'm definitely going to have to up my game. I've looked at that guy's setup and I've seen some of the other setups people have online. They look awesome. Like I see those and I'm like, I want that. There was like a $22,000 rig that I saw the other week. And I was like, that's an investment. That'll pay for itself. My big problem with that is if you go that hard into it, I live in an apartment in New York. So I have like a living room, a walk-in area, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a bedroom. If I put that in my living room, then it's like my entire living room has now become an airplane. And that's what our living room is now. So like I have guests over and it's like, you can't hide that. It's just out in the open.
And you don't want anyone spilling a beer on your airplane. You know what I mean? On your HOTAS.
I got an absolutely huge idea for you, PFT. Make it work for you, bud. Take it out of your living room, put it in the game time office at work. And then on the weekends, charge people to come fly in your simulator, charge them by the hour. Then you could talk to them, you can get your money back, and then it's all paid for.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I just think that if I had it in the office, I would just live in the office. I think that like if I get into an actual simulator, full mantis. That room would become my new bedroom now. I'd put up like a cot and everything. That would be my bunker.
Well, all right. Well, now we've had 2 huge fighter pilots on the show. We had Charlie Plum, who was shot down over Vietnam and spent 6.5 years, and then Hanoi Hilton. And we have PFT Commenter, who's a Medal of Honor recipient. Nice to have 2 huge fighter pilots.
Listen, I'm sure that was tough, and I admire what he's been through, and I respect that. But I don't know if he's ever experienced the pain of like a loading screen. That's true. It takes a while to exit the mission after I'm done with it, and I got to wait for my prompt to come up, and sometimes that could be 2-3 minutes even. So we all go through our battles here. I did have a question because I saw some of the chaps tweeted out last night, and I wanted to weigh in on the debate. The question was, if you could only eat one fruit for the rest of your life, what would it be? And I respected your answer. The lime is a strong choice because you do use it for cooking a lot as a garnish, and as
in drinks,
margaritas, you're going to want some limes around. I would submit to you the humble tomato as being
but see, this is, and that's what people are saying, but you know it as well as I do, the tomato is a fake fruit. Like anytime that it's like, oh, it's actually a fruit, that doesn't count. Like people, it only counts to scientists. Real life people, no one considers a tomato a fruit. No.
Well, yeah, I understand that it is served more as a vegetable and it's not sweet, but it is a fruit. And so with the tomato, you get your pizza sauce, you get your Bloody Marys. You can't have pizza anymore for the rest of your life. You don't have
and I didn't count the fake fruits. I didn't count like a jalapeno. I didn't count an olive. Like that's not a fruit either.
Some people would say Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the fake fruit of the singing world. You claim that he's counts as a singer.
Yeah, but I was in the environment that needed a technicality. This is real life, Kate. We don't want to have tomatoes as our only fruit.
Wait, I'm sorry. Last thing, PFT, do you have a call sign?
I don't. Chaps, you know what? I've been wanting a call sign because I guess I'll break some news. This is probably like the worst breaking news ever. Like it's a big deal about anything. I'm going to start streaming these. I think next week I'm going to hop in on Wednesday, but I do need a call sign because right now, some people are calling me the Ghost of Manhattan because I did shoot down.
That's more of a moniker than a call sign.
It's a nom de guerre is what it is. I do need a call sign. So Chaps, you have a call sign generator.
Yeah, I went to a call sign generator before PFT came on, and the only thing that it had, you only had to put the first and last name. So first name I put PFT, last name commenter, obviously. And then that's only information that you needed. I put submit, and the very first one that came up, it gives you a rank and your call sign. So PFT, are you going to accept this? I feel like it's a good one because it's
yeah, you gave it to me, so I feel like I have to.
Yeah, and I think that call signs are given, not like you don't do it yourself, like it's from the other people. So it does fit. So his rank would be lieutenant, which is, we have to remember this is the Navy, so it's not like a boot. This is a 03, same thing as the Army captain, Marine Corps captain, everybody else captain. So he's a lieutenant, PFT, and then his actual call sign name is LMAO. So it's Lieutenant PFT LMAO commenter. And we were talking about how great it would be if he was on the radio going down. Like, do you read me, LMAO? Are you going down, LMAO? Your belly's on the Hudson, LMAO.
Yeah, Splash One Bandit, LMAO.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
It fits. It works.
Yeah.
Do not buzz the tower, LMAO.
Yeah. Wait, are you really telling me not to buzz the tower, or are you just laughing? Are you saying that tongue in cheek?
God damn it, LMAO. I mean, it changes everything, like from the tower.
Yeah, it really does.
I think I have to accept it. I think I'm LMAO when I'm in the cockpit. Yeah.
There he goes, LMAO.
LMAO, man.
All right, PFT, thanks for joining us, pal. Yeah. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, good to talk to you guys.
I feel like we really got to the bottom of a lot of stuff that deals with fighter pilots. It's taken a while, 5 years in, and we finally done it.
We finally have had, real fun.
And it's crazy. It's been underneath our nose the entire time. We've been serving alongside a brave
hero.
pilot.
Medal of Honor for Christ's sakes.
Unbelievable.
This kind of ties into round number 3 because he is also a Nationals fan. True. He's a Washington, D.C. area guy, and he is a Nats fan. So I was scrolling Twitter on Wednesday night, and like I said at the beginning of the show, I see someone tweeting about parachutes dropping on the Capitol building. And then I see that the Capitol was evacuated, like these alerts, get out of here, blah, blah, blah. Like there's probable cause to think like there's a dangerous plane circuit. So I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? What's happening? And here's what actually happened. The U.S. Capitol was briefly evacuated Wednesday evening after police identified an aircraft they said posed a probable threat. And that's like scary as shit. But the plane was actually carrying members of the U.S. Army Golden Knights, who then parachuted into Nationals Park for a pregame demonstration. It was military night there.
Yeah, it is fun when they do it. We've been several places where they have the Golden Knights come in, and it's always fun.
It's cool as shit. It's awesome. And talking to the jumper guys at the Air Force and Gala, like that's super awesome. Anyways, the alert from the U.S. Capitol Police sent congressional staffers fleeing from the Capitol and surrounding buildings around 6:30 p.m. The incident suggested a stunning communications failure between the military and the Capitol Police. All the more remarkable.
Is it stunning though? Like, are you guys stunned? I'm not like in the slightest bit stunned.
I blogged it and I said, find me a more perfect way to kick off Military Appreciation Night than the most military possible snafu situation. This is so classic. But people are saying after the January 6 attacks in 2021, that they had been hyping up like Capitol Police security, blah, blah, blah. We're going to really like up this and make it great. At least they were paying attention. Whatever miscommunication was going on, they were quick to act. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi blamed the FAA in a statement Wednesday night, saying its apparent failure to notify Capitol Police of the pre-planned flyover National Stadium is outrageous and inexcusable. The FAA did not respond to a request for comment, but I have a feeling
I feel like the FAA has to respond. Like, how do you not, if you're the government agency, it's not like you're working at Starbucks or something that's a private company. You're the FAA. If people ask you for comment about something that big, you got to say something.
Not to mention, it's not just people, it's Nancy Pelosi. She's kind of an important person in our government.
Right.
So
third highest in power in the country.
Yeah, I think she, regardless of your feelings on the woman, she warrants answers if she asks, especially if you're a federal agency.
And I believe the Capitol Police falls under her jurisdiction anyways.
I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure, but shout to Lethality Jane, our friend there on Twitter. She did this Spider-Man meme with 3 Spider-Men. It was like the Pentagon, the Golden Knights, and the Nationals, all trying to figure out who was supposed to call the Capitol Police.
Yeah.
None of them clearly did.
Nobody did. In Wednesday's incident, the aircraft, a twin-engine plane, took off from Joint Base Andrews in Maryland and had been circling inside heavily restricted airspace close to the Capitol when the alert was sent. Radar tracking data shows the plane, a de Havilland twin otter, what a cute little getting up in the otter, remained clear of all prohibited airspace over the Capitol and other complexes at all times. Air traffic control recordings capture the Army plane coordinating its flight with a nearby control tower at Ronald Reagan Airport. It's crazy. These airplane bubbas who, like, we were talking about the teen who was tracking all the Russian oligarchs' planes that were leaving. Like, he knew exactly where their planes and their ships, or she knew exactly where all their stuff was going. People hopped on right away and were like, here's the plane that they're looking at. Here's the path that it's going on, blah, blah. It took people 2 seconds to find it, to figure it out that, like, that was the problematic plane. The Capitol region is defended by several surface-to-air missile sites, as well as military air crews on round-the-clock alert. It did not appear that any of those systems were scrambled, but still, holy shit. If you were a jumper on that otter and you're lying in bed that night thinking, oh my God, there was a miscommunication that could have had a missile take our plane out. You know what I mean?
Jeez.
Like,
yeah, because you get that close. Right. They're not taking chances. So
I didn't even think about that aspect of it, that there's ground to air missiles like all over
but
DC.
Conversely,
like
you are in that unit. You just, again, this is why you should never just assume. You should always double check and don't rely on everybody else. You just assume this is kind of taken care of and that this has been cleared up the chain of command and people know this is happening. You wouldn't think that we would get to this point where they had no idea that they were about to jump into the Nats game.
Well, here's the bullshit right here. Officials believe, based on a preliminary review, that the pilot may not have properly reported taking off or had appropriate clearance. People said, this is a smear job by TSA and FAA. This is a fucking smear job. Of course they're being quiet because they're going underlink ways saying, oh, no, it was the pilot. It was this poor fucking military person who's serving our country, who's entertaining the shit out of us at Nationals games. It's their fault. I don't think so. Anyway, this brought up a question for me. Has the U.S. ever, because that it was the missiles part that really like got my attention of this, like, oh God, this could have really been, I doubt it would have gotten to that point. This could have been really bad. Has the U.S. ever shot down planes on U.S. land before? Do you guys know? A couple come to mind for you?
No.
I would have said no, never.
Oh, I definitely would have said yes. I couldn't give you specific incidents. There's just no way with the amount of incompetence that happens from time to time that the answer is going to be zero.
That's fair.
I don't know if I would have suspected it to be like a huge incident, like where you have one, they're like, oh, fuck, we really messed up and everybody was safe or something like that. But apparently that's not what happened, right?
Well, yeah. Two obvious ones. And then I have one crazy one for you. And then there's a couple, and people are bringing up Chuck Yeager in his book, I guess, had 2 incidents where 2 separate planes accidentally shot themselves down somehow in a roundabout way, but that doesn't count. 1, Pearl Harbor, of course, 29 Japanese planes. 2,
that makes sense.
Alaska in 1942, as part of the Japanese Battle of Midway, the Japanese attacked some islands off the south coast of Alaska. And there was this 19-year-old pilot named Koga, and he was attacking Dutch Harbor. He got shot down. And when he hit the mud of the bay trying to land, broke his neck immediately. The plane was like unharmed, but he died. And so I didn't know that. We down to Japanese plane in Alaska. No, the other one, and this story is kind of crazy, so bear with me for a second. Back in 1961, we had just gotten a bunch of military missile technology, like the heat-seeking, like you've heard of the Sidewinder. Like that stuff was brand new back in 1961. So the Air National Guard, they're in New Mexico and they're testing this stuff out. So F-100 Super Sabre jets, a group of them, they would fly these B-52s and have these F-100 Sabres teaching the pilots how to follow the B-52 and just hone in on it. And you know how they lock in, like in video games, you lock in on the B-52, but all of their Sidewinder missiles were on safe. It was like on this mode where they couldn't possibly fire them. Like the cap was over the button and there was an additional safety measures.
They had a BFA on there.
They had a BFA essentially. Well, one of the pilots, this guy Van Sjaak, he radios to land and he says he's in one of the fighter jets. He says, I'm running out of fuel. Let's do one more run and then let's call it a day. So all these F-100s drop in behind this B-52, which is also manned by a bunch of military personnel. And he locks in on it. And to his horror, he hears the Sidewinder missile tone as he achieves lock. And then he feels a thump, hears a roar, and sees his number 2 missile leap from the launcher headed straight for the B-52 with other military personnel on it.
Could you imagine being the pilot that's doing that and how unbelievably gutted you would feel? Like in that, like, oh my fuck, like, what do we do?
And he did nothing.
Yeah, no, one time I screenshotted a conversation with someone and sent it to that person as opposed to my friend. Yeah, of course.
Dude,
it's the exact same feeling.
It's the exact same feeling.
Same thing.
Well, the B-52 had just been on autopilot. They were just cruising along, helping the guy, like the fighter jet pilots behind the train. The B-52's pilot, Blodgett, he hears Van Sjaak, the fighter jet pilot, call, "Look out, one of my missiles is loose," just before the bomber shudders and rolls to the left. The Sidewinder.
That's almost exactly the same thing we do whenever a working dog gets loose. You have, like, your requirement is to holler 3 times, loose dog, loose dog, loose dog. Same thing, I guess, for missiles, loose missile.
Yep, he called it out. They're essentially very similar, just a much smaller scale.
Right.
Our little missiles. Look out, one of my missiles is loose, but it was already too late. The Sidewinder explodes on the port side of the engine. It blows off the entire wing. The B-52 heels into a spin. The co-pilot ejects, but Blodgett, he's trapped by the G-forces in a burning cockpit. He barely manages to hit the alarm button and pull his own ejection handle. The B-52 hits Mount Taylor in New Mexico, creating a 75-foot crater, taking the crewmen on board with it. Blodgett broke his pelvis on the landing, but soon found out the tail gunner, Staff Sergeant Singleton, had survived. He'd been burned bailing out through blazing jet fuel. Only 3 of them survived. An inquiry fully exonerated the F-100 pilot who had just been doing what he was supposed to do. They found that moisture had condensed in a worn connector plug, causing a short that launched the Sidewinder. Further investigation revealed that almost every single F-100 had this faulty wiring. Wow. So had this not happened, like, it's terrible that it happened. Had this not happened, F-100s would have been flying all over the country that could have just launched a Sidewinder randomly at moment's notice back in the 60s. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting story to share about. It's really
certainly a tragic incident, but I guess ultimately for the best, because they found that flaw and
crazy. Yeah, they like pretty much all the F-100s had that issue. So just interesting little.
Also, fun fact, since last week we talked about that Russian ship that went down in the Black Sea, the B-52 is going to be in service under the same steel frames and the same mainframe for 100 years, people are saying. Like, these same B-52 bombers that have been out since the 1960s are still flying now, and they're planning on using them until at least 2040. So that'll be 100 years for plane technology, which is unbelievable.
That's bananas. When you consider how much money our military and our government wastes, that we have some things where we're like, no, that's still good. It's 100 years old.
That's the part that's
still
weird to me.
Yeah, I'm sure they've had like technology and adding like all kinds of things to it, but the basic frame of it, it's like whenever you see going like to Miami or something, you see a 1956 Cadillac and you're like, that doesn't have the same engines and insides. Like, you've changed a lot of the stuff, but the frame is still the same. So it still counts as an antique car. I feel like that's what's going on with B-52. There's no chance they're still doing like fucking manual windows on the B-52.
Actually, you say there's no chance, but
there might be a chance.
There's probably the odds.
Did we ever figure out from that Instagram we posted of what that window was for? Like that weird window?
No.
I know what that was. As soon as I saw it, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the guards on Monty Python, where they like stick their heads over and they're like, well, an African swallow may be. Like, you put your head out of that plane and like, if it floats like a duck, then it's made of wood and you must burn her. Like, I feel like that's the same exact thing.
If you know, we posted a Coast Guard video of a Coast Guard. It looked like a Coast Guard weather plane. And he literally they're way up high in the air, where if you did this in a normal plane, everyone would die. He puts on his pressure helmet or whatever. And then he just opens the window like he's in a house. He just like, boop, opens up the window and he's just sitting there in the breeze, I don't know.
So if you know what that's about and you saw it on our Instagram, let us know. But please make sure the explanation is 3 sentences or less, or I will absolutely not read it. That's my
Can I have a
promise to you and the
second?
rest of the listeners.
While we're doing Coastie requests, I need the Coast Guard people. I need one of the boat captains who does those waves in San Francisco at Ocean Beach, who's hitting those giant waves, those rescue boats.
I thought one of those boats was about to do like a 360. I thought they were about to Tony Hawk it. That would be incredible. If the Coast Guard or like Recon and Navy SEALs could have like an X Games for like their little boats.
Yeah, he's in X Games mode.
I didn't tell you guys this, but there is a big Land Rover and Range Rover dealership here in San Antonio. And one of the spots here, they built like this little almost course that you can drive through on there. I had no intention of buying a Range Rover or Land Rover at all. And I went there on a Saturday by myself. Just to, Annalise didn't come to Kensington. I was like, I just want to drive on this little track. So I go in there.
Awesome.
I do the whole fucking process of like, because before you can do it, they have to verify your finances and all this shit.
Right.
I'm like, I'm super interested. And I drove it and I was like, that was awesome. Thanks, fellas. See you later.
Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow.
He's like, you don't want to come back inside? I'm like, no, I'm all good. It does work.
Yeah. So
you're probably like the 75th dad that day to come through and do that same shit.
Right.
Cardi loves sports cars, like exotic sports cars, and there's a Lamborghini place like pretty close. We went over there one day and I get out wearing like, I think it's barstool sweatshorts and like the Big Cat coffee shirt. I had that on. I get out of my car and Cardi's like, I want to go check out the yellow Ferrari. And I'm like, there's no shot they believe that we actually have enough money to buy this Ferrari, which we absolutely do not. So we were not going to be able to drive that one.
Back in the day, my uncle, he lived in Manhattan, and sometimes like on a Saturday, if he had nothing to do, he would go to all the different exotic car dealerships, Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever is in New York City. And he would just test drive and like make it seem like he was really interested, but then just drive them all over Manhattan as something to do. That was like a hobby of his.
That's what Kate and I should do. Kate and I should go over to Connor's house, get some of his clothes, and then go to Lamborghini.
We had this Lance Corporal who was so fucking annoying. And his grandmother let him bring, someone in the family had a red Ferrari, like stunningly gorgeous. And the license plate said, ooh, shiny. And she let him drive it around, and I couldn't stand this guy.
Isn't that the worst when someone annoying has something cool like that?
Something nice, yes. It was like, oh, fuck. I'm getting in my 2000 Hyundai Sonata that I had to hold the doors open with my leg because the windows didn't go down in the California summertime. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember in high school, one of my best friends got a Mustang convertible, and I got so angry and jealous just thinking, you're not cool enough to have that car. I should have that car.
Cons, I think that's what's important about your car that you got gifted by your father-in-law. It's not what I really like about it. It has that cool sports car look, the old look, but it's not one of the major sports car douche brands that you would think. It's not a fucking Mustang GT convertible, which makes you a douche automatically. A Corvette makes you a douche automatically. But there's some that are out there that are smaller, lesser known, that I'm like, that's a cool fucking car. You show up in like a 1994 fucking Corvette, I'm automatically thinking you're a douchebag.
Yeah. Absolutely. What are you compensating for?
And if it's red, get the fuck out of town. Don't even lose my number. Red Corvette haver. You disgusting.
Speaking of thing. Last night I was watching, there's a new 30 for 30 about Greg Norman, and he got really into sports cars, and he had this whole garage of these exotic sports cars, and they were all red, chaps. So it's like, he's compensating for all the Masters he didn't win.
Typical fucking Australian. Disgusting.
Classic.
Absolutely the worst. That's the reason why they sent all the criminals there, honestly.
That's true.
I'll piggyback on this since we're piggybacking right now.
Okay.
We're just gonna let's see how fast we are.
Frank Lloyd Wright, the famous architect who did like the Guggenheim and
huge
Falling Waters
guy, sloppy steaks, the whole nine.
He had something like 54 different cars. He had a patented color red that he created that was kind of like this rusty, deserty red. And every single one of them was painted in the exact same color. And also, he never paid taxes ever.
How did he do that and get away with it? Or
pretty much.
What?
I changed my stance if it's your own personal color of red. Like whenever people have their own color, that is fucking fire. Like that color purple that Prince has, that's only Prince's color of purple, is amazing. Almost like a lilac lavender combo. I think that's gorgeous. I would love to have those. Have you seen that paint? That's like the blackest paint ever made.
Yes.
Where it's so black when you look at it, it kind of fucks your brain up.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm looking at this color right now. It almost looks like a red desert clay that he had, which is super unique because you're just not going to see that anywhere else.
Nope. It was at all.
I
Now, I learned that info really hungover on a tour of his house in Scottsdale. So take with that what you will. It could be kind of fake.
Speaking of taking that, if you want to get in bed and have somebody take it, use our friends at Roman. The folks at Romans are an online men's health company. They are changing the game with Roman swipes. There's no other way to last longer in bed. You don't have to think about baseball scores or basketball scores. Who's going to miss a free throw while you're getting it in? Roman swipes are clinically proven way to last longer in bed. They're effective, easy to use, and fast acting. Roman can send you swipes in a discreet, unmarked package and send them where they're small enough to fit in your wallet or your coin purse whenever you need it. They're super easy to use. Just swipe them on, and you can get them by going to getroman.com/ZBT for $10 off whenever you choose a monthly plan. Let's move on to round number 4. We're going to do a little bit of vape goofing.
I love this. Personally, I think this gentleman should be put into intel undercover. Send him he's a spy. This guy is fantastic.
Undercover. This is from Haley Britsky at
Haley Britsky. The old
Haley's
PNP.
fantastic.
An Army private is under investigation for an incident at Fort Lee, Virginia, which, according to a series of TikTok videos that he posted, involved him allegedly going to the base, dressing up as a trainee, and attempting to sell vape pens to other soldiers in training on post before getting caught and leading authorities on a high-speed chase. This just got better word by word by word.
What a paragraph. And also, this guy, maybe the most shocking aspect of this entire story, the TikToks are still up. He hasn't deleted them yet. Like they're still up, which is insane. I mean, once they tell you they're kicking you out, why would you? Like, why would you get rid of that clout?
If I'm overseeing his court martial and I hear that he still has them up, part of me is like, I kind of respect it. Maybe we should keep them.
It's like going into a board and slamming the door. Like, it just shows extreme confidence or extreme stupidity. One of the two.
Yeah. Private Daiquiri Tour, which I like. Daiquiri. I feel like that's how Forrest Gump would say daiquiri. I really like that. Private Daiquiri Tour.
14 daiquiris.
Daiquiris. He explained in a series of 3 TikTok videos in March.
I got 14 daiquiris. I went down to Fort Lee and sold me some vape cartridges.
I mean, since I was thirsty and not hungry, and
you can vape these anywhere.
Private Daiquiri Tour, age 20.
The cartridge pops out. It's like, someone vaped me.
He explained in a series of 3 TikTok videos in March that he was getting kicked out of the Army over the incident, which he said was the second time he'd gone to the Army post to sell vape pens to soldiers training there. Tour said he'd previously graduated advanced individual training at Fort Lee before getting stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Let's take a moment to appreciate advanced individual training. That's like when I tell people my son is advanced when he
that's just like the next
fancy.
It does, but that's really just the next step after you finish basic training to do your specialty
MOS
for those
for us. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Basically. Tour told Task and Purpose on Tuesday that he was still in the service, but given his paperwork that day to be chaptered out of the Army. I like too that he's doing interviews. He just does not give a fuck.
This dude doesn't. Honestly, we might need to have him as the 4th member of the show. Like, just bring him in.
I would love to have him on.
He's quite entrepreneurial.
A spokesman for the 18th Airborne Corps confirmed that there was an active investigation into Tour, who's with 82nd Airborne Division. No further details about the incident were available, given the investigation's ongoing nature. Attempts by Task and Purpose to reach the civilian police department involved in the incident were unsuccessful. However, the series of TikTok videos posted by Tour offers the soldiers' version of events. He's smart. We only have his version, so we got to go by that. According to the first video Tour posted on TikTok in March, he had decided to drive back to Fort Lee to sell vapes because that's where the money's at.
I love that reasoning.
He's not
Can't
wrong.
argue it. Yeah,
it's true. Tour explained in his video that he planned to blend in with trainees by wearing his PT uniform, but he was caught by one of his former drill sergeants. Wait a minute.
This sounds like one of those stories that would be in. Remember that book that we reviewed called The Enlistment?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This would be featured in that book.
So great. I love too the thought of somebody doing a double take and be like, wait a minute, I had this motherfucker here just a few months. What?
What's that motherfucker got his cargo pocket full of vapes?
In Tour's second TikTok video, posted 2 days after the first, he He explains that when he was spotted by his old drill sergeant at Fort Lee, he took off running.
I was running.
And was eventually caught by other soldiers.
And his drill instructor looked back and he's like, he sure is a running fool.
Yeah. The other
I'd sell
soldiers
these
here,
anywhere.
I feel like the main point of boot camp is to learn teamwork. I don't know why they went after him.
I know.
The police were called, but they let him go, he said. He returned to Fort Bragg where he got an Article 15, his second. And I mean, he's already very young into the service. He's all in. A second Article 15, and he was assigned extra duty. In his third TikTok video posted on an alternate account, Tor said that after his extra duty, he went back to Fort Lee to sell more vapes. I fucking love this guy. If
He's
you
all
thought
about the money.
I love this is his actual quote. If you thought that part 1 and part 2 was crazy, you're in for a surprise because part 3, like this shit gets federal. This shit is hell. He drove back to Fort Lee. This shit gets federal. I want that on a t-shirt. He went back to Fort Lee with a friend and drove to the shop that on post with the intent to sell vapes. Tor and his friend were sitting in the car and had not sold anything when another drill sergeant walked up to his car and started asking him questions about his intentions and if he was selling vapes. Tor said he told the drill sergeant no.
I gotta be honest, I'm not sure I would ever in a million years put it together that somebody is selling vapes on a secondary market. Just would never, ever put that together. I wouldn't be like walking to the shop and be like, hey, is that private that I had like 6 months ago? Is he out here selling vapes?
Which, you know what this tells me? This has been an ongoing problem for them.
Oh, yeah.
That he knew to do it and that he knew that that's where the money was at. And
what is he selling the vapes for? Like, how much do you think they're going for?
Well, he probably, I don't know if we get to it in this story, but there's a good chance he finds them wholesale somewhere and is turning a profit.
And these are just tobacco vapes, right? Like this is not like THC vapes. He's not selling 3G.
Just regular tobacco. Because if you think about it though, like I was a smoker until I went to boot camp. And then I started immediately, like the day I got out again. I was like, oh, thank God. We didn't have vapes back then. But I imagine because you can go in the bathroom at night, nobody's going to smell it really. Blah, blah,
yeah, vaping in your room.
I would imagine that would be huge. Anyways, so the drill instructor is like, hey, what are you doing out the side of the shop here? You selling vapes? At this point in time, I just wanted to leave, Tor said. He then put his car in reverse and then began
go home.
He began backing up to leave the shop when he said the drill sergeant got behind my car and he's talking about I hit him, Tor said. According to Tor's video, the drill sergeant called the police and reported the incident as a hit and run because Tor left. At this point, Tor claims that his friend insisted on driving, so the two switched seats. Oh, okay. If you really would like to drive right now, sure. Mm-hmm. As they were driving, the military police came up behind them, and Tor said his friend did not stop the vehicle. I'm not here to bullshit or lie, Tor said. I did not intend on going on a high-speed chase. I am not about that life. I swear to God. Military police.
You know what? I believe him. Because you don't just go from slinging simple vapes to doing high-speed chases. Like that's not the level.
No, vapes aren't a gateway crime.
But I appreciate the thinking. If we can just make it off base, we're free, man. We're
because
free.
You've been told bullshit your entire life. It's like whenever people are in a high-speed chase, they're like, I just got to make it to the county line. You don't think they share jurisdiction whenever something like that happens? That shit happens in movies, dude. That's Tom Hanks and Redemption. That's not real life.
Again, I served with a Lance Corporal who one of his claims to fame was that his dad was in a police chase that went over 4 different state lines somewhere out in the West.
That's actually a pretty cool story.
Pretty impressive story.
And out west, it's even more impressive. It's not as impressive if you're in New England.
Right.
That's true.
Do you remember what states they were?
No, I'm wondering if it was just a little square right around
spot
where
the 4 states converge.
Yeah,
he just did a donut.
He was doing donuts.
If I ever got in a high-speed chase, I'm 1000% going to Spotify and blaring that as loud as I can because that goes viral instantly. If there's cop cars and police all have like their guns drawn on you and you're like, I feel like that's enough comedic relief in your jury trial that you're going to get acquitted.
You know what else you have to do? And I'm not imagining this for you, but
I like it when my money don't vote.
No, you also have to spin your penis around. On the roof of your truck.
No, because you know what, that's a good point. Because if you get naked and you start jumping out of your car and dancing, like, oh, this guy's insane. We can't put him in prison. He's got to go to the loony bin.
Yeah, I saw an article today. There's a fellow in Texas that was going up for the death penalty. And in order to get out of the death penalty, he had to prove that he was crazy, like he was trying to use the insanity of defense, plucked out both of his eyes and ate him while he's in prison.
What?
It worked. He did the first one right after he committed the crime. And then the second one, when he had been in jail for like 15 years, got a spoon from the cafeteria, plucked his eye out and ate it. And they were like, well, we cannot do this now. The Supreme Court put a stay on the case.
Whoa.
Insane. I almost put it on the sheet, but the details surrounding it are just too horrific. Like, this guy's legitimately insane. But
I would argue that yes, he might be.
Yeah, you are insane. You don't have to prove it at that point.
They're like,
I'll be
no,
honest,
you don't
I didn't
have
see
to.
that coming.
We're not going to do that. But also, I know this is messed up, but isn't that kind of the guy you don't want around anymore? Like, if he's plucking his own eyeballs out, like, that's
sure.
Like, why he does something that crazy and you're like, well, now we can't kill him.
I thought you were going to say
He's a real
incredible
problem.
initiative. Incredible initiative.
Right. And I'm not a huge death penalty person by any means, but sometimes I feel like it's like that Supreme Court case on pornography where you can't define it, but once you see it, you know it. Like the Boston Marathon dude, death penalty. Osama bin Laden, if he came back, death penalty. Like the dude that did the 93 World Trade Center bombing, death penalty. This, you eat your own eyeballs, death penalty.
Well, serious question though, and I'm sorry if this is a little too deep. Do you think it is more torturous to just let someone sit in prison the rest of their life versus killing them?
I think it's a worse punishment for sure. Like, if you have to go in there and spend the rest of your life in prison, I think it's awful. The reason why I'm not a huge proponent of death penalty is because there's been so
they get
many
it wrong
cases,
a good amount.
so many cases people got
There's one
wrong.
coming up this week where it's I won't get into it, but it was a woman who her baby fell down the stair, like her 2-year-old toddler fell, and they accused her of beating the baby, even though she had no history of it, no nothing. And she's gonna die. Like, it's great. It's like, and all the evidence, all the whatever, it's like so clearly not right. But
And
whatever.
if you have one person that's gonna get executed and they're innocent, I feel like that should cause you to get rid of the entire plan.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, back to we're getting heavy when this is a ridiculously delightful story.
Yeah.
So Tor says, I'm not here to bullshit or lie. I did not intend on going on a high-speed chase. I'm not about that life. I swear to God. Military police followed Tor and his friend till they were off post, and then civilian authorities picked up the pursuit. They hadn't planned on that part, I feel like.
They probably got out the gate. They're like, oh, crap.
Yeah, once a sheriff was behind them.
Wait.
Yeah, once a civilian sheriff was behind them, Tor said, his friend stopped the vehicle and then asked to swap seats with him again. So he's saying, he's claiming that the whole chase part wasn't him. I have a feeling they never swapped seats at all.
But I feel like he has to, because if somebody asks you to switch seats and you do it, once you return that request, I feel like you have to. That's bro code. Like, you have to abide.
I smell a little bit of a lie here, but such is life. I also, what a roast of the MPs that, fuck, we're not stopping for the MPs, but a civilian sheriff, they're like, okay, it's the real cops now. The real cops are here. We should
it's
probably
not these
stop.
fucking Walmart cops.
Yeah, exactly. Other videos Tor has posted since then include one that said is supposed to be a funny video about him being told by his commander he was being kicked out of the army, and about the high-speed chase. No regrets, this guy. No regrets. I feel like he's very industrious. He's a go-getter.
This is the epitome of
He's good NCOs.
Yeah, you're lacking the good NCOs in this instance, but I think this is just the epitome of how that young junior enlisted brain works, where he thought, like, 1, if we just switch seats, I'll be okay. 2, I'll just keep going back to the scene of the crime and it'll be no big deal. 3, once we get past the MPs, we're all good. Nobody else. And they hear just this nugget of truth that they run with for the rest of their time. And I think
I gotta be honest, Cons, I don't agree. I don't think that's the average enlisted mind to sell vapes at basic training and go.
No.
That's what Cons thinks. Of course, that's what Cons thinks.
Look at thumbing his nose down.
Well,
look at
the enlisted.
Look at all the
Mindset.
enlisted. That's why everybody has vapes. They're buying them for 25 cents a vape cartridge.
Aren't they all as such?
Mother never allowed me to get into a high-speed chase with the MPs. Let's move on to round number 5, which is an interview that Kate did with a video gamer. Here it is.
Okay, well, I'll kind of jump into it then, and I'm going to do a quick intro for a second, and then we'll get to you in a second here.
Sure.
Now on Zero Block 30, we are joined by Joel, a gamer that I came across on Twitter the other day when our own PFT commenter posted his, I don't even know how this started at our office, but Za, one of our producers, began playing simulator games. So he's in the office in the game room after hours, and he's conducting a train with all this equipment around him. He's landing a commercial flight. He is farming in a tractor. He is fishing on a whatever. And it's not like your regular video games. It's not like your N64, whatever. I'm so old and outdated. But like actual simulator games.
Right.
And then Spider, our guy, started playing it here. And then Chaps started simulation farming. And then next thing you know, PFT commenter is playing DCS games, which stands for Digital Combat Simulator. And he's sitting at home and he's wearing like a Top Gun leather jacket with his aviator glasses on. And you replied to him, and he's got a very basic setup. But Joel replied to him, you see, you start there and you end up here. Check out DCS World and Combat Sims. And you posted a picture of this. I see like 8 different little screens, 1,000 little buttons, a gaming chair, a setup that looks like it's worth thousands of dollars, like a cockpit seat that's nice and soft and fuzzy, and the headphones and gear shifters and everything. And I said, I would like to talk to this man. I had never really heard of the DCS Digital Combat Simulator world, and I want to hear more. So without further ado, Joel, thank you for joining the show.
Sure. Yeah, simulators have really kind of taken off over the last like 5-6 years. It's really blown up, especially with like the arrival of things like VR, where you can really kind of get immersed into it. You mentioned things like farming sim. It's like that's another one where I kind of get into that, where there's a lot of ways you can go experience things that are not just simple to go experience on an average basis, right, with a normal budget. So things like DCS really allow home users like myself to be able to access it. There are National Guard units that use DCS to train, right? Those modules are very, high fidelity, or 1-to-1 in some cases, or almost 1-to-1, where you can practice procedures and weapon implementation and all those different types of, fancy high tech things that you really can't do in like a sim like Microsoft 2020. There may be a Hornet in there, but it doesn't have the functionality that the Hornet in, say, DCS does, right? So there's just a lot of development that goes into that allows it to kind of give you this really rich experience.
This realistic deal.
A lot.
Because I talked about on CBT before, we used to play, which in hindsight, I didn't realize that we would call them DCS games, Digital Combat Simulator games. But when I was in where we would be the Taliban or Al Qaeda, and we would be setting the bombs for American troops, like it sounds fucked up, but it would help you think like the enemy. And they were teaching us through video games, which absolutely, I guess the whole public at large, I'm sure not the exact same games, but can play these games. But I have to ask, like, there's a huge community around these combat simulator games. Absolutely. Like, can you kind of describe that?
Yeah, so I got into it a few years ago, and just kind of coming across somebody playing it on Twitch, and I kind of was like, I was a big plane nerd. I really loved planes. I thought I knew a lot at the time. You really don't realize, the unknown unknowns about it, right?
So you were just doing regular flight simulators.
I barely was not really even doing that, kind of. I had a HOTAS, but I really like a stick and throttle, but I really never.
And a HOTAS is like looks like an Atari stick kind of.
Right. HOTAS stands for hands-on stick and throttle. So the system pilots use so they can manipulate the plane without really having to move their hands around to a lot of different places. Right. So I kind of got into it through finding all that stuff and seeing these different sim pits and different setups people kind of had put together. I kind of fell in love with it. I was a gadget guy to begin with, and it just kind of spoke to me. It's like, oh my God, I need to do this, right? I'd always seen things about it growing up and here and there, but never really kind of like, was it something in the periphery, if you will, right? And then especially it was right around the time that they released the F-18 Hornet module, which it's always been like my favorite plane growing up. So just having the ability to hop in that thing and learn it for what it actually is was like dream come true at the end of the day. So
and when you say that, like,
love affair,
it's almost like you're sitting in the actual cockpit of an F-18. Absolutely. You have multiple screens around you. Sure. How do you know, like, how accurate to the real system are these systems that people can play?
So several A-10 Air National Guard units and F-16 Air National Guard units use the modules to train, not necessarily on, the military definitely has much higher level simulations and much more close to one-to-one where they're sitting in the actual cockpit with all the switchology and everything is identical. But still, you can work through procedures on a much cheaper basis using a system like DCS to do so.
That's what the Marines use. They just have some guy, they go over to some guy named Joel's house and they use his, yeah.
At the same note, you
Lower
can actually
budget.
still get a lot of those same procedural things. The same procedure to go through and arm a weapon or prepare a weapon to be released is very close in DCS than it is to really doing it in that plane. So, and there's not really any other sim that allows you that close to the reality. So it's kind of unique in that regard. There's a ton of development time. It's something that's kind of been being worked on, and these modules get released, maybe 1 or 2 a year over the last 10 years, basically. So the fact that they work with the government and create these different modules for training purposes, we kind of benefit because they sell it to us on a commercial level, right? So
yeah, and do they, I'm assuming they have to strip it of a lot of things before it gets to the public, right? So I was going to say, I'm like, where does security come in? Like, how does all that work?
There's definitely been some times where things they've gotten in trouble from the user, where they've had something kind of accidentally was in the code, wasn't actually functional in the plane, was in the code, that type of stuff. And it usually gets regulated pretty well. They do a very good job of making sure classified stuff doesn't get posted to the forums. People will come in and be like, I found this document, like blah, blah, blah. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute, we can't have that here. That can cause a problem. So they do a very good job of policing it and trying to make sure that, things don't cross those lines in a bad way where OPSEC is broken.
Obviously, it's safe to assume then the people who develop the actual plane systems are the ones developing these games, are the ones helping strip these games and get them to the public. So it's like these games are created by actual military members, which is really cool.
There's a lot of people with avionics degrees and aeronautical degrees that are working on these. I mean, the simulation level of DCS is pretty high when you just look at the environment and the different, physics that are kind of simulated and taken into account when you're actually flying the planes and doing the different stuff in DCS, and the GFX simulation of, you can black out and you have to kind of manage, trying not to get yourself into a blackout when you're pulling enough G's and all that type of stuff.
So you can like how a pilot could black out because of the pressure of your screen.
Depending on depending on the G, whether it's positive or negative, you can red out or black out, and depending on the situation, you kind of put yourself in and so on and so forth.
Can you walk me through? So you want to go play DCS, Digital Combat Simulator, for the day. You strap in, you get in your seat. Are the enemies computer generated, or are those other people? Can you have wingmen? Can you call up your friends, like 3 of your friends, and be like, hey, strap in and come fly with me and be like my goose and my maverick? Like, how send me through like a typical experience.
Sure. So some of the modules also multi-crew, where I could be working with another person inside that. Like we just got the AH-64 attack helicopter, and that's one where you can work with a gunner up front and be, finding and tracking targets. But so I fly with a big group, right? I think there's between 30 and 50 active members in our group. We plan little weekly operations, and there's a bunch of servers too that you can go on that are either PvE, which is like player versus enemy, so AI, or player versus player, which is like actual people. And that can get, almost Call of Duty-esque on some servers, where there's like this air quake or this air battle team deathmatch type thing, where it's just, 30v30 basically planes just kind of colliding and getting into these crazy dogfights and fur balls and all kinds of stuff, right? So there's a wide range of things you can kind of go get into once you kind of begin to learn the modules and can actually go do the things you need to do. There's a pretty steep curve to actually picking one of these things up, to being able to go do the things. That a lot of my time spent is teaching people. It's one thing after you spend enough time in it is, you kind of get enjoyment going back and helping people learn these things, because there's a lot of people who really want to know it, yesterday, but it takes time to actually process through a lot of that stuff. The phrase "drinking from a fire hose" is commonly thrown around, because there's just a lot of stuff to kind of know. So
and this is great
it's interesting
for veterans out there we've been talking lately about, especially after the pandemic, like there's a loneliness pandemic going on out there. And for a lot of veterans getting out, they feel like, so this could be something interesting to look into, to get into.
I've met a ton of veterans, and I've actually met a ton of active duty people. So
would you say most of the people who play are military, or no, it's like a total mix?
There's definitely a large percentage, right? So one of the guys who I learned the most from is actually active duty. He's on the USS Harry Truman, attached to the NATO detachment right now, going up, flying the intercepts, doing this. This is his first one too. So
he's an actual really pilot.
Cool. Oh, he's an actual F-18 driver. He's taught me probably the most out of anyone I've come across. And I've met him too. I went, traveled and actually met a lot of these people I've flown with. So it's kind of cool. It's a smaller community where you run into the same people on a pretty regular basis. So that's
cool too. I feel like that's like, you ever dream about as an adult getting to go play like the T-ball kids and just crushing it and being the number one? I feel like being an actual military pilot playing these games is like,
it is a lot of that. They're definitely the rock star mentality, just because they, a lot of guys know that they can teach you a lot. There's a lot to learn there.
Yeah.
And, one of the guys that I used to stream with and fly a lot with, he's an actual AH-64 attack helicopter pilot, and he streams on Twitch on a regular basis. And just being able to go watch him, do the things he does in that module, you can learn a lot from it because it's somebody with actual professional experience with it. So, it's a pretty cool community. There's a bunch of guys who are actually like that, and those guys actually work with the developer to make the module better. They're subject matter experts for a lot of the processes. So it's pretty cool. Really cool. It's an interesting community within gaming. It can go from being very simulation, very mil-simmy to very gamey and arcadey too. So it's got a wide range of places to enjoy itself.
Yeah, that's really cool. And a couple of questions here. So your setup is impressive, and other people are like, oh, that's like an impressive one, but you should see how crazy people get into this. It's like when Chaps discovered tools in the beginning of the pandemic, and then next thing you know, he bought an entire shed with he was like a professional woodworker. It escalates.
I saw one of these photos for one of these things, and I was like, oh my God, I was like, what do I need to go sell right now to go make this happen, to go buy this? It was very similar to that, where you kind of are like, you have this epiphany, you're like, oh my God, I've been missing out on this.
Yeah. How much?
I found this years ago.
Do you mind me asking, how much do you think you've spent on your entire setup altogether for the simulators?
It's definitely something that's taken place over time, right? I bought a bulk of stuff up front. I went from using a pretty cheap HOTAS similar to the one that PFT has, right? But the more you do it daily, that stuff breaks over time. So you go for a higher end, something that's going to last and kind of withstand the beating. I kind of beat my stuff up too. So having higher quality was a little important for me. But I'd say between the button boxes, the stick, the throttle, the collective, so I switched from flying fixed wing planes to helicopters, which, different kind of stuff required to do one from the other. So my sim pit is kind of set up to do a wide range of stuff. A lot of people will set it up to fly one type of plane, right? So it can kind of do things a little differently. However, mine more for a wide range of stuff. So I'd say total spent on it somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000.
$2,000 to $3,000
over a span of a few years.
Okay. Yeah. It's a pretty good setup right there. So but people commented because you replied to PFT commenters thing, and he retweeted, and I'm going to read you a couple of the comments. Somebody, Willie Football, said, why not just become a pilot at this point? You're spending thousands of dollars on this stuff. Why not?
It actually pales. It's a fraction. Right. What I spend on this is an actual fraction of not only the money you spend to be on mobile, but the time. It's a lot of time and effort. And not to mention, for me, I can hang out here and, drink some beers and do my thing and not really have to worry about it. Right? There's a lot of stress involved in being, not only a real pilot, but even a real military pilot at that. There's a bunch of videos you can go out there and watch of the scary things those guys have to do, landing on carriers at night and all that kind of stuff, where the reality kind of sets in of what the job entails. And for me, at least, I enjoy my life doing my job. Yeah. For me, these things are kind of an escape, right? I kind of use it in that capacity, but I totally understand. There's a lot of people, I work with a lot of younger guys who want to go do that and are using DCS and flipping sims to prepare themselves for that. So there's a lot of people kind of doing that actual thing there, using it for that purpose. But
to make it more realistic, you have to do an hour of cleaning toilets before you can begin flying. You have to get your Liberty secured on the weekend. You have to get drunk in a Motel 6 with 2 strippers. You have to, it's a very different game when you want to do the real thing. Well, I saw so many people being like, well, why don't you just become a pilot? It's like, because he wants to enjoy his life. That's why. Exactly. That's why. Chili Redemption said that looks so fucking fun, but the cost is probably insane. Again, if you look at it, you're probably saving a lot of money on experiences as opposed to like going out.
Correct.
Oil Driller 69 said, Jesus, what a nerd.
Definitely used to that one. Anytime I have friends or family or I bring a date over, it's just like, what is that thing there? Right. Like kind of have to explain.
Is that something you prepare people for? Like before I bring you upstairs, I've got a cockpit in my living room. So
like sometimes I'll forget about it. And so I just like kind of start pointing to it, like, what is that? It's like, oh yeah, I forgot I have that whole thing here. Yeah. So yeah, it definitely takes a little explanation. It's not normal. Like it shouldn't, you shouldn't really should expect it to be viewed as like a normal thing at the end of the day, right? Like it's definitely kind of obscure and niche in itself, right? So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's kind of, I think for people who know me, it's kind of like, oh, that definitely makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I think we all probably know people that are in that category.
Half the office, again, it's spread like Zoss started it, and now like half the office on the weekends is like driving an Amtrak train to Terre Haute. I'm like, what? This is like people are like, oh, Barstool's like the frat boys, and I'm like, no, we are enormous nerds here, every single one of us. So I get it. I'm not judging. We are all like giant.
When I heard Zoss say he was into Sims, I kind of like perked me up. I actually almost messaged him a few times to be like, do you do this? Do you do that? Like, are you in a Discord? Or is there somewhere where you're doing this?
He'd probably be all about it, my friend. Yeah.
Right. I probably should shoot him a message. No doubt. It's an interesting community when, a lot of these other gaming communities can be toxic in ways. And not that there aren't toxic gaming communities of any variety out there, but when it comes to simulation, in a lot of cases, you find people who just want to help you learn the thing that they enjoy too. So there's a lot of that going out there. It's always fun to do these things with people. And, most of these communities are small and they're looking for people.
And like you said, you've actually gone and met up with these people. Like you have real relationships.
A lot of real friends for sure. 100%.
Well, on the opposite end of the nerd comment, Nikki P said, I'd trust this man to fly me in a real plane. So say you're in a real plane and shit starts to go down. And no other pilots on the plane. Would you be like, I'll give it a whirl? I do Sims. Sure. I don't know.
I actually do a lot of Microsoft Flight Simulator and general aviation airlines. I have quite a bit of time. I know the Boeing flight management computer. I know the Airbus flight management computer. I mean, I could probably program. I'd be more comfortable programming the autopilot to do the auto land than I would actually landing it myself. So it's more so like I'm a systems person. Like I'd
still be like, all right, I want them up there. Let's give it a try.
I have a basic understanding. And at the end of the day, it's checklists. If I find the checklists, I can probably do a majority of the things. If you follow the checklist and do what the checklist say when it comes to aviation, generally you're going to be in good hands.
Wild Weasel Apparel. What's up with that?
Right. So when I started streaming, I was always looking for shirts and things to wear on stream, but there really wasn't like a place to go get that type of merch. So I kind of just came up with my own brand and designs, and it's kind of taken off. Really, it started with taking the HUD, right? So the symbology that you see in the front of the cockpit, and just putting that on a t-shirt, because in itself, it's an interesting kind of conversation starter type graphic. So it kind of just took off from there, and I've just expanded and added different, my own art I've kind of just made and put on there over time, and found cool things that, people in this community kind of enjoy.
Cool. Wild Weasel Apparel. ZBT will be stealing from it shortly. You expect to see that on the Barstool site now. I'm just kidding. But thank you so much for your time, Joel. And people can follow you. What's your handle where if you want people to follow you on the Game Time or whatever? Like, do you have?
I'd have to honestly look it up to remember. It's Billy W_Merlin, which is my DCS call sign.
Okay. So look for Billy Merlin out there in the friendly skies. Sure. Thank you very much.
Again, I feel like we got to we talked about it during the train segment that we did a couple weeks ago. Za was all on this. He was also on the plane goof, and he's doing 18 wheelers. I feel like simulator life is the way you got to go now.
It's the way you got to go. I know it was kind of more technical and whatever, but like, I feel like if you're looking for like people he said he's like flown to visit these people. Like some of them are like really good friends now, and it's a great way to make friends. Like the heart of it is people teaching other people. You spend time mentoring others and getting to know other people while you do this shit. It's kind of a cool hobby. I
always love it when video gamers get together and they have like real life friendships. There was one that went kind of viral the other day where it was one of the San Diego Padres players. and he's played in a Call of Duty group for like 8 years with the same dudes. And he finally like told them who he was, like that I played for the Padres, and they flew the whole squad out to the game. And he comes over to like the dugout before, and he's dapping everybody up and giving them like Padres gear. And people were like, I can't believe we play video games with this dude every day for like 8 years and had no idea.
Yeah. Very,
That's
very
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to some save rounds and alibis, which today is going to be presented by our good friends at TaylorMade. TaylorMade is doing great things in the golf game. Con just got his set. I got my set. The whole squad at Barstool is getting their set. They have a big time open sweepstakes that they're doing right now. They're going to give 50 prizes to 50 different winners. The prizes include everything from a grand prize, which is a full bag of the brand new TaylorMade clubs, to the Stealth Driver, to the TP5X golf balls, and everything in between. Now through May 10th, go to tailormade.com/barstool sweeps to enter and celebrate the season's first major and the unofficial start to the golf season. The sweeps is running across a number of podcasts within Barstool, and we want the lawyer listeners to go ahead and win. So head over to tailormade.com/barstool sweeps right now for your chance to win, and be sure to let them know that you heard from ZBT. Make this golf season better. I'm telling you, I went to the driving range. I've only had time to go to the driving range with the new driver. I busted it out, pulled it out of my bag, and I swear to God, there was like 5 dudes that instantly came. Like as soon as I pulled it out, they were like, "Oh, is that the new TaylorMade?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "How are you hitting it?" I was like, "Buddy, you're about to see it the first time." I shit you not, first drive ever, because I didn't even go to a fitting. They just sent me the pretty standard because that's what I usually fit anyways. Piped it like 290 on the fly. Woo. And I was like, holy shit. And they're like, "Oh, you a good golfer?" And I was like, "No, I'm fucking terrible. I don't know how
That's the thing
happened."
though. The technology is so advanced that even
I did the little
Jamokes
spray.
can play well.
Have you guys seen where they'll take like foot spray and you'll spray the face of it to see where you're hitting
I
on
have
the
seen
ball?
that. Yeah.
I hit 3 balls. One of them was on the toe, one of them was in the middle, and one of them was like in between the toe and the middle. They all went essentially like 10 yards apart, which on that big of a difference on the face is huge. I don't know how they did it. They're a bunch of fucking wizards. They're probably going to get arrested for it at some point because it shouldn't be.
I heard they've been trying to sell the clubs back at basic training. They've been selling these golf clubs to the recruits.
Sell them at the officer club at fucking Quantico at OCS. Unbelievable.
High speed chase.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to some save rounds and alibis. Nick's not going to do it because he's being a baby back bitch and he's at sick hall, so he's not going to do it, but he is going to edit the podcast going on. I love that from Nick. Well done, Nick. And we had a topic that we were going to talk about. We'll move it to Tuesday because I didn't feel right doing it with Nick being sick and with PFT commenter on the show. I feel like it was going to be too on the nose, so we'll save that for Tuesday. So we'll start with you, Cons. What do you got? Save rounds.
Yeah, just got all my TaylorMade sticks this week. I'm so excited to play with them this weekend. I am a little scared though, because now it's like there's no more excuses. I was playing irons from 2011, and I'd be like, yeah, you know,
I'm Nike slingshots, right?
Right. Yeah. I was like, I'm hurting a little bit on my distance, but it's the irons. It's the irons. Now I have no excuses, but I'm so excited. And this is just such a fantastic partnership. I can't say enough about the fine folks at TaylorMade.
Their putter is so good.
I got one coming. I designed that after the fact, and I have one of those coming. I'm very excited to see how that comes out. Number 2, did you guys see? Well, go ahead. Yes.
Women's clubs for women who don't play golf.
Yes.
Okay.
I will.
Do you play golf?
You're
way better.
I do play golf. Yeah.
You're good. Like you.
I'm trying to get in a
solid
tournament
160,
with you guys.
170 straight every time.
No matter what club I use.
Talk to some people that we work with, and you could probably get yourself a set of clubs.
I'm gonna, because I want us to be in a tournament this summer. I want CBT to like go to a tournament and fucking lose, but have a good time.
Me too.
Yes, that'd be fantastic.
I love losing.
As we know, I'm not a huge gun or rifle person, but did you all see that the Army or military?
You're an artillery guy.
Yeah, that's true. Did you see that we're switching out from the M4 from Colt?
I did, but doesn't it feel like that article comes out like once every 4 or 5 weeks? Like
maybe?
I feel like
I don't know.
Always see that there's going to be a new squad weapon or saw or something like that.
I don't know. The Sig Sauer, I don't know. I'm not, again,
if there's an expert out there who can make an interesting case for why this is interesting. I'm not saying it's not interesting, but you're saying, but like,
go ahead, Kate. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying you're right. Like there probably is some really interesting aspects to this, but like concept, like I don't know
there
enough
has
about
to be
rifles
some significant differences.
You know,
I mean, we've used We've used the M16 since Vietnam and then switched to the M4 in more recent decades. And we've been working with Colt for how long for our squad weapons. So there's got to be some significant differences that they're said, all right, we're going to entertain a new contract.
I wonder what the salesperson does that negotiates that. Because if you
if buy a new house
and you sell for the entire Army and Marine Corps all of the squad weapons that they use,
dude,
like you got to be talking billions of dollars, I would imagine. Like for the
it's
entire,
a very,
for
very
services.
That's a heck of a commission. You're definitely buying a new house for sure.
What do they do with all the old stuff too?
I wonder how much Mattis is going to make from that.
I know, the old revolving door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question, Kate. I don't know what they would do with all the old weapons.
I don't know.
Oh,
I think they're going to give it to their little brothers. So probably the Space Force.
Probably.
Right.
Yeah, imagine Space Force walking around a bunch of M16s, like a loser.
Yeah, they probably got some actual like sabers
laser beams
from Star Wars.
Yeah. And then lastly, Army Navy lacrosse Saturday. Army is ranked number 5 in the country right now. Pretty jazzed about the game on Saturday. So beat Navy. And that's all I got.
There you go. Okay.
2 things. Just one is just an absurd thing because I rarely win internet polls that I post to win something. Like Pat and
this is nuts. Yeah.
Normally I'm the one who gives the baby a bath. The last night I start to give the baby a bath and Pat's like, I'll take over from here. And I'm running around doing other stuff like clean up after the dinner, whatever. I go back in as Pat is squeezing shampoo. Our baby has very curly hair onto the top of his completely dry head. And I watch as he starts rubbing shampoo into the baby's completely dry head of curly hair. And I'm thinking, because I have to get tangles out of the back of it now. Like it gets real. And I was like, oh my God. So I say, like, what are you doing? You have to wet his head first. And he goes, no, this is how I do my hair. You what? You put shampoo in your dry hair every day when you shower?
I mean, it says it right there on the bottle.
What activates it is water. Anyway, I took a poll, almost 10,000 people voted, and 97.6 say, yes, you wet your hair first. I just thought that was enough.
I mean, that might be the most lopsided poll with that
I've never
amount
seen
of
one
votes
that lopsided
in the history of Twitter.
And there's still 5 hours left on it.
I don't know if you could have that as a competition for yourself, Kate. See if there's any question that you could pose that ends up with a 97% rate again. I bet it never happens again on your Twitter account.
Never happens again.
No.
I was grateful to all the voters to help me because I was like, he was like, no, this is how you do it. And I was like,
evidence.
I'm just so curious. Like, Pat, do you like get in a shower and before you even put your head underneath the water, you start with shampoo right away? Like, how is your hair dry that you've always been doing this for many, many years, putting the shampoo in with dry hair? I don't get that.
My mind was blown. And the boy had many a tangle this morning before daycare. I guess that's it from me. Yes, that's it for me.
Okay, I have one I'm excited about because I've been a barbecue guy for a long time. I've probably had 10, 15 different types of smokers in like my day. I got a new one on Friday. It got delivered. It has something called propane assist, like it's a smoker, but you put your logs in and it has a propane tank attached to it where you no longer have to light coals or any of the individual wood yourself. You light the propane, that lights the logs, and you're done.
Whoa.
Unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. I'm going to make a video. I think this weekend I'm going to do a pulled pork. So I'm going to make a video on how to do that with this new smoker. Can't wait to be looking for that. That'll come out on the Barstool Grownups YouTube channel, which is where I host Podfathers, and Kate comes on there too. She does all kind of stuff for her high chair channel, but make sure that you're following us. We finally went over 9,000. Keep it going, folks. Subscribe to the ZBT. It'll help us out a lot. So please do that for us. Until next time, we'll see you then. It's On the Retreat.